Hi, everyone. A very warm welcome to each one of you who have joined this exclusive webinar AI at the Edge Redefining Devices and Driving Innovation. I am Shweta Sharma from NASCOM, and it's my pleasure to introduce the distinguished session host. Today, we have with us Mr. Jagyan Mishra. He is Global Head of Embedded Systems and VNV Services at L&T Technology Services, bringing over 25 years of expertise in product development and driving innovation across the mobility, sustainability, and high tech sectors. Joining him is Kshitij Ballal. He is the Associate Marketing Manager at L&T Technology Services. He leads business marketing for their embedded systems and VNV services horizontal. Jagyan and Kshitij, thank you very much for joining us today. We are eager to hear your insights, and I'd like to now invite you to begin this valuable session for our audience. And audience, as you listen, please feel free to submit your questions in the chat. We will be holding a dedicated Q&A session to answer them. Kshitij, over to you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, to today's discussion. My name is Kshitij, and I will be your moderator for this session. Today, we'll be discussing with my colleague Jagyan on how edge AI innovations are transforming industries and unlocking new possibilities. So, before we get started, Jagyan, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience and talk about the work that we're doing in LTTS?
Sure. Thanks, Kshitij and Sweta, for this opportunity. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all who has taken time out to join this session. So my name is Jagyan Prakash Mishra. It's been more than 25 years working in the industry. Started as a developer developing products, and currently responsible for serving more than 200 customers for L&T Technology Services. Uh, where we serve them all different kind of embedded product design, development, and validation kind of work. It's a pleasure to talk on the new developments that's happening. There are over last 2 decades with the enhancement of technology, embedded systems are now prevalent in all phases of mankind life, and it's helping in solving problems and making life of everyone much easier and simpler, right? So it has its own merit, and the technology advancement has made sure that it is accessible to one and all, right? So looking forward for this session. Kit is over to you.
Thank you for sharing that, Jagyan. Now, moving on to the topic of discussion today, I think we all can agree that AI has revolutionized industries in the past couple of years, right? With the launch of GenAI, LLMs, AI in healthcare, cybersecurity, etc. So, Jagyan, among all the great things that have been happening, what do you think are some of the most impactful developments?
Right. See, I mean, obviously, AGI has been here for quite some time, and as I said, as devices or ecosystem is becoming more wider and wider. In current situation, if you look at today, the transition to agentic AI, right, where it does the continuous learning, so the decisions are kind of more accurate and appropriate. Then security has been a big concern. So so there are algorithms that's been kind of getting adapted, which will respond to any kind of security threat in real time, and providing the mechanism so that user do not get impacted. Right. Similarly, all the applications, right, which is can be deployed for a real time access or usability need to be scalable. So that's also another thing, how easily those applications can be scaled in terms of feature, or how flexible are they for interoperability, right? So these are few things that we see in the current day which are changing. Things like federated learning, for example, healthcare and finance, right? There are there are regulations to the data privacy. Now, edge AI is leveraged to take decisions, but federated learning method make sure that the sensitivity of the data is local and isolated. So they maintain the privacy and security. I little bit spoke on the generative AI as well, right? So for content creation or any kind of real-time video enhancement, uh, generative AI has its own, advantage, which will make sure that user experience is richer. Right? There are places where latency is low, and hence, how do you move certain decision making to the edge, and where latency is low, or there is a low power available to the device. So these are few things which are changing power adoption into robotics, visualization. So in nutshell, these are things that we see customers are investing to take their product to the next kind of experience to the end user. Yes.
Great points there. So, Jagyan, Edge AI has been there for some time now. We have been talking about it for some years now. So,
Right.
what do you think is, driving that adoption now or accelerating that adoption now?
Uh, See, definitely, as I said, the enhancement of the ecosystem, right? Starting from chip to the algorithms which are, readily available, and so that it can be optimized and taken to the edge, are the primary drivers. Both hardware and software, and the platform associated with it, and SOCs are driving the adoption, and obviously the economic feasibility, right, for a large adoption also has helped. Uh, yeah, so the scale and the cost has been driving the adoption of AGI of late.
Fascinating. Actually, we have a poll for our participants, wanted to pick their brains also on what they think, where Edge AI will be going and what are the best use cases that they feel for Edge AI. And if we can get that poll out, I think real-time analytics and decision making, is leading by far by a huge
Okay.
margin also. Any comments, Jagyan, on this? This is something that you have been talking with customers, or
Yes,
this is what you see in the market?
absolutely. See, real-time analysis for decision making. We have implemented use case for our customer as well, for safety equipment, for example, right? I mean, you are operating in a hazardous environment and operating uh, some devices which can pose a threat to human, right? If it do not operate in the right way. So those decisions are safety critical. So that helps. There are certain decisions which has to be taken, so that the amount of data that can be pushed out, right, for to the cloud. So yes, I think this is pretty appropriate, and we see a lot of use cases customer are asking to work on, right, in their product itself, implementing this.
Okay, actually, that was my next question. What are the use cases that customers are actually looking out for in AI? Some, you alluded to safety, but is there anything else?
Sure. See, I mean, a good, maybe I can walk you through few things that we see across industries. As you know, we cater to various industries. Healthcare, for example, remote patient monitoring is one area where the devices can monitor the vitals, right, on the real time, and that's what the and alerting the provider, the healthcare provider, in case something is not right, or there are anomalies that is detected, so that the right intervention can happen, and the patient gets the right care, right? For uh, again, automotive, if you would like to say, autonomous driving has its application, so that the decision, while the the data that comes from sensor and cameras, how the combined decision can be taken, the integrated decision can be taken, so that it improves the driving safety facet of it, right? I spoke on industrial automation also, right? It can be used for quality control to make sure that quality standards are maintained with the
Mhm.
least amount of human intervention, making sure that defects are low and we do it on time. Their throughput or quality process is quick. Similarly, you can optimize using this. You can optimize your production lines, right? There are so many industries where production line operation yields or make a decision about are they profitable or they really have to go out of business. So AGI is used in many of the manufacturing is getting adopted in manufacturing industries to monitor the equipment. Uh, Throughput and making sure that if a decision has to be fed back in real time to the production line so it can be optimized. uh, I gave example of human protection, like for example in industry again, if you are dealing with sharp objects, can AGI help the device to make sure that it do not hurt, if you come very near to it or your hand or any human organ is near to the operating equipment, how the on the fly the decision can be taken by the device which is more intelligent. um, Again, for a human adoption standpoint, see, as you know, there is a large amount of smart cities are getting developed in India. Plus, surveillance across the world has uh, you know has increased intercepts. The need for surveillance as well as traffic management has increased for both the cases. In smart cities, when there is a infrastructure, we try to control the real time data, and the decision on by the devices will help, right? So that's use cases we are implementing for the smart cities that gets they are adopting that surveillance again for safety of public. Again, I think sending the data back to cloud and then taking decision back can be time consuming. So surveillance decision through AGI also is a upcoming or pretty relevant use cases that customer are looking to adopt, right? So yeah, these are the things that comes to mind right away. It is in terms of how AGI, because of you know mainly this is making advances in uh, the products and applications. Yeah.
So I think it's all about saving that bandwidth, not sending the data to the cloud and doing most of the computation on the device itself. And what I understand is that it's also about more or less about inferencing rather than, training and all that. So that's where Edge AI has a predominant role to play.
Correct. And see, of late, if you see the as we spoke about Gen AI, right? So Gen AI
Mhm.
kind of thing, which is a very large language. I mean, large
Yeah.
language models are heavy in terms of the amount of storage it needs, the space it needs, the computing power it needs. Now, obviously, to the edge, and this is getting, there are a lot of ecosystem players, be it SOCs or the software providers. They are working to make sure that how a smaller version, a pretty smart decision making engine can be ported on the edge to take those decisions, right, offline, so that as you rightly said, the decision can be taken locally. So that's also is making its way.
Okay. Oh, excellent. And speaking of applications, I know I'm just curious, but is there any application that you came across either in LTTS or anywhere else that you have come across that like blew your mind? An Edge AI application, something that truly shows its potential, its flexibility.
uh, yeah, I mean, as I said, we got a chance to for got a problem, in fact, was thrown at us to see how to increase the operator safety. And it was
Mhm.
a company which was working on wood saws, right?
Okay.
And it had its own safety hazards. The industry had its thing, and they wanted to increase. the overall safety of the people. And so we have implemented the complete solution where the blades retract automatically, detecting if the operator's hand is near to the blade, right? And it can detect. See, previous has been some solution where there is a single hand. If it comes, it used to detect, but it had a limited thing. So we have implemented there multiple hands if it comes near that. The solution in at the edge, right, which is on the device, is able to retract properly.
Mm.
Latency is super critical. We could bring down the overall latency by 70% down to 38 millisecond. Right? So the overall retraction gets done in 38 millisecond, which helps to avoid any kind of accident because we make that proximity judgment, and the hand movement during this time will not hurt the human.
Mm. Mm.
Now, one of the key fact I think it is you have to understand that these are good stuff, but it has to be done. So we are looking at equipment which are not that expensive equipment, right? These don't run into
Yes,
millions of dollars, right? So we have to keep the whole solution in mind, where equipments used, the hardware chosen, and are cost effective as well, right?
absolutely.
So that combination, so we have chosen the right hardware which can go to this, the cameras that is required, has the adequate, I would say, adequate processing power to yield this. Adapted the algorithms, which can do, and we can train different instances, right? So that it improves as it starts using it, does the improvement in terms of the detection capability. So the combination of that has yielded, a significant customer satisfaction. Plus, we could show the latency, which is in technology term 70% reduction in latency. It was a big achievement, right? So this is something very recently carried out by the team. So I thought maybe useful to share with you, how.
Okay. And actually, Jagyan, exactly on that point, we have got one question from Ranjit, and
Mm,
he's asking edge devices often have limited processing power, memory, and energy compared to
right.
cloud servers.
Mhm.
So, can you share some insights on how we can handle these resource constraints?
Sure. I mean, I think, as I said, see, again, to solve this thing, there are algorithms. For example, if you have a complex algorithm, it solves the problem on the cloud. I mean, it can be optimized, right? There are, in fact, we have written our own suite, which is we call Rapid Studio for AI on the edge. What it does the model optimization and conversion, so that it can be ported to the edge, right? A different framework which is available, or model which is available, which is doing a job this. So so uh, and in terms of power consumption, there are a lot of players who are developing SoCs. Like, we have a partner who develop chip, right? A very specific chip, which can significantly reduce the power consumption, right? See, because it's a continuous processing of data and the decision has to be taken. So these are power hungry, right? Now there are chips which are coming out, and which is dedicatedly created so that the power requirement is brought down. So there are technology advances which has happened. A certain thing, obviously, everything is not readily available, but with leverage of toolkits, plus some of the solutions that the engineers can create or teams can create, like creating the optimization of models, choosing the right hardware. I think we'll able to achieve. Yes.
And also, I think, like you mentioned also, right, there are new chips that are optimized to run AI algorithms in them.
Absolutely. Like, see, we have been playing with chips like ARM, NVIDIA, Intel.
Mm.
All three we have piloted. SEMA is a new choice of ours just because of the low power consumption it does. Right? That's provide a huge advantage where there is a continuous processing of large volume of data which are image in nature. Right? These are not image. You take video captures and you have to take lot, particularly quality control kind of thing, right? Where in a production line you are doing, you have to take a decision and say like medical industry, for example. In medical industry, let's say for example, the product which comes out has to be measured so stringently. So the amount of processing time, taking taking video, analyzing, and taking a decision this product is right or wrong, right? Need a lot of power. So SEMA has come up with a chip. So I mean, there are many more. There are more than 8 to 10 chip vendors who are developing their chips to make sure that this gets adapted. It has enough processing power, GPUs, NPUs, or the FPGAs. So that ecosystem is coming out very fast to
Yeah.
support the use cases. Yes.
Okay, and this is a good leeway for me to ask you this. You know, Edge AI is one, but then I think AI is also affecting how embedded systems and chips are designed, right? On the engineering and design side. So, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, true. I mean, definitely one, we are taking AI to help, customer, how do I say, customer experience. Finally, that's the customer experience which we are taking it to the edge, right? But while doing our work, be it embedded product design, while doing so, we are adapting, and I'll give you some classical examples how we are adapting. Like for example, EDA tools, right? The EDA tools which has been traditionally used for system design, and AI is changing it big time, right? Um, so AI makes sure that we can reuse a lot of hardware design which we have done in the past, right? So it saves, it scans through, and it gives a good amount of cycle time saving, right? Similarly, while the chip is getting designed itself, we know our customers are using AI in the design life cycle, and how efficiently they can design the real estate footprint and the chipset design as well as power planning. These also are getting adopted when a chip is getting designed itself, right? Now, coming to you spoke about system design. So this is like
Yeah.
if you're system design. So when you are designing a system, see there are a lot of tools. AI. I would say AI assisted tools. They are not AI tools. They are AI assisted tools, which helps to do things first time right, right? Do the code improvements, making sure testing is kind of done at a large extent, through in an automated and self-learning way, right? So that helps in the cycle time reduction. I spoke about design automation by which you can do a flawless design through some of these AI integrated EDA tools. So yeah, overall, if you look at, we are using into the development life cycle, product development life cycle, some of the tools, and I would say regenerative AI and some of the standard AI product to go to save time, be cost effective for customer. Those are the two drivers which are driving AI tool to come into embedded product design aspect. Yeah.
So, next question, and I think I see a lot of questions around this also, and
Sure.
we discussed a bit about it, but um, you know, like any new technology, there's always challenges in developing, in designing those products. So, what do you feel are the biggest obstacles organizations encounter when incorporating AI into hardware? And what they can do to overcome these challenges.
I think some of those points I kind of spoke, but maybe even though it's a repetition, I'll just try to summarize that because you asked very specific to hardware. See, data privacy and security has been a concern, right? How do you handle sensitive data on the edge and make sure that these are not shared across or is not tampered with, right?
mm,
And that's where we spoke about federated learning, how different devices can handle their data and still on the edge without revealing each other data, you can take a local decision, right?
mm,
So that becomes one of the challenges, right? How do you get the federated learning on the device, right, through hardware? Power consumption, and I gave an example of it, and that's why SEMA, this whole chip was launched to address power consumption. It is very power intensive. AI as a process.
mm, mm,
Now, embedded product, as you know, has to be extremely cost effective, and the resources are limited, right? So what do you do in terms of low power AI chip design? How do you write algorithms who are optimized to not to consume more, right? So how do you port those algorithms through quantization or pruning to make sure that models do not lose its integrity, what it is supposed to do, but still it can operate and at the edge. So that's while designing, we have to keep that in mind. So yeah, these are the things. So I think chip vendors have come up with so many different chip who has tensor processing unit, it has
mm.
neural processing units, it has general processing unit to overcome the limitation of how do you develop a optimized hardware for different AI tasks. So that's in progress. But again, um, while applying the whole uh, I would say use case, right? So you need a hybrid approach. You need to
Mm,
think of the systemic view. What can I mean, as you in a typical embedded system, right? You have to trade off what stays in hardware, what has can be handled through software, what can be handled through a combination of it, choice of chip,
mm.
what specific design changes you are going to do to make sure that you don't rely. So these are few things which developer face in a day-to-day basis, but that's our job, right? To solve the problem and give a new product to the customers. So yeah.
No, great insights, Jagyan. Actually, we also have a poll on this exact question, and let's take the view of the audience on this. So, can we have that poll up, please? Hardware enhancements. That's where our audience thinks will have the biggest impact on overcoming the challenges.
Absolutely. Okay.
Great. So we are having a lot of questions coming up, and I think we will take that. But before that, a last point from you, Jagyan. You know, what do you think is the next biggest turning point for Edge AI?
Okay. I think if AJE has to really make an impact, I think the couple of points that comes to mind, right? One, sustainability is a big thing, and energy efficiency has to be realized, right? So for a larger adoption of it, right? Security concern has to be met, otherwise that will be inadvertent for many people to adopt it. With this kind of cyber threats that's going on, so have to handle security at the edge, right? See, agentic AI is a new thing which is getting adopted, so that autonomous decision without a person, right, can take
Hmm,
place. Now, see, this is I think, is a big shift, and the way edge devices will collaborate with each other to make a joint decision. And we spoke
hmm,
about it earlier also, right? Hence, that will drive efficiency, that will make sure data stays federated and things like that. So these are few things which I feel are going to take a decision. Uh, the companies, the engineers, the team who can address these issues will help customer to adopt AGI in a much faster way. And I'm sure the audience also spoke about the hardware. It has to be cost effective. It has to be easy to meet many of the requirement that's coming for edge, right? So yeah. So those are the things that comes to my mind right away. Yes.
No, fair enough. I think there is one classic question. I do see this popping up in a lot of forum, and the question is from Ramesh, and he's asking, what specific use case benefit from edge computing, considering the advancements in 5G? So I think he's alluding to the fact that 5G is there, and now there are high speed connectivity to edge devices. So where does edge AI comes in?
No, I'm sure. So so it helps with the 5G adoption has started. Still, it has to come to the private players, right? I mean, it's still kind of restricted, but um, let's say industry, there are private 5G implementation happens. It has to be node of the sensor also has to be intelligent enough, right? And has to do certain decisions just from the critical standpoint. So one, definitely data will be cheaper. I understand, that. So if 5G gets adopted in industries, private application happens, so data will not be expensive. But edge AI is not only for cost of data; it's for time criticality also, right? And so I think both will coexist. It will help definitely, and the use cases will evolve depending on this. So this is a definitely advantage to it, but I don't think it is a prohibitant for adopting edge AI, because there are, as I said, much critical decision that can be taken on the spot without relying um, on going back and forth. And we are talking nanoseconds, milliseconds. So, however fast it is, you go to cloud, operate, and come back. I think certain decision has to be taken on the spot, and hence adoption will continue despite 5G adoption. It will go hand in hand, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, especially for like you mentioned, like safety critical applications, I guess,
Yeah,
where we can't wait for the data to go and come back and then take a decision, right?
true, true, true.
On the safety side, there is another question from Ashish, and he's asking if decisions can be made at the edge from a safety perspective, isn't it also important to ensure redundancy? So if an edge device misbehaves, what can we do to prevent single point of failure?
No, we can. In fact, see, redundancy is definitely, see, it's a cost, right? I mean, we have to take a decision based on the safety and redundancy. Redundancy maintenance will be decided, as I said, at the product design or system requirement arbitrage itself. That how cost effective. I mean, what is the cost of the product, and what is the safety implications. Keeping in that mind, I think I haven't seen. We didn't implement it. The redundancy part of it, because failsafe is a cheaper option. Rather than doing a redundancy, unless you need a 24/7 operation, right? So if there is a health hazard, shutting it down is much easier, rather than it's not going to hurt any efficiency of safety. It will help. So again, it will go by application, the amount of money customer who is willing to spend on the device and application. So doable, but I think it has to have few of those qualifiers in place.
Exactly. And once again, there are a lot of questions. I am trying to figure out where I was.
Sure.
Yeah. So this is from Hanish. He's asking, are there any real-time use cases of LLMs and GenAI deployed in industrial level on edge devices? Have you come across any such use cases?
Yes, I mean, yes, I mean, yes and no. It's been getting tried out. I can give you one of the example. One of the customer wanted to do. I think all of you know the flight map, right? In a aircraft is a very large amount of data, which helps people to not people. I'm sorry, pilot to make sure that it lands in the right place, and the whole it's a big database which is there. and some of the customer wanted to put it edge at the edge. Now, I think we spoke about it, right? So why edge is required? When you have a loss of connection, you don't have an update available. Can the decision be taken locally? And these are in GBs of data, which we are thrown a challenge to put it to a local device, which was much smaller, maybe 1/10 of the size processing capability compared to what it is in available in the original device. So that was kind of piloted. It's not operational, but it was piloted. So um we are seeing those kind of large scale application coming back to be deployed at the edge, right? But again, as I said, smaller applications are much more uh, getting adopted. I mean, just I think people are testing water. For example, multiple sensors talking to creating a industrial mesh, and how different robotics decision making can happen. That is a pretty frequent use case, right? But isolated big time things are getting kind of tried out by customer, not fully implemented.
Okay. And that example that you were mentioning, that predictive maintenance is the use case you're saying
Correct.
about.
That's true.
Okay. Okay. And so there is another question on security. So how can we ensure security and integrity of AI, especially in scenarios with intermittent connectivity or physical access to devices? I think this is more on the packaging side of the device, I guess.
Yeah. So I think you got to create some base algorithm versus which it become a reference point for you. And again, um, if and you see a threat, right? What do you do? What are the process? So what your customer want to do with the data? Based on that, I think the implementation has to go. There are certain use cases, just shutting down the connection, not allowing further intrusion is good enough. There are certain places, because it is compromised, you report the whole thing to the product, right? And
Mm.
make sure that the access is not available. So there are different application that, use cases that can solve, not solve in the sense, can be deployed here. Yeah.
Right. And one final question. Are you witnessing any demand for on-device AI use cases which are more consumer-facing? Example, Google Assistants in Samsung phones or conversational AIs for smart home speakers.
Those are the ones which are actually is the highest demand. Anything that
Mm.
is consumer facing, as I said, large scale edge AI adoption, because of the power necessity and optimization of the models is there. But consumer devices related decisions, medical device, so medical device also, even though it's safety critical, is kind of very close to consumer, right? I mean, for the day-to-day operation. So those kind of use cases, hospitality industry use cases,
Mm.
those are pretty frequent ask for edge AI implementation, and that can be done at a very cost-effective manner with the algorithms that's already available, with the ecosystem which is there, the kind of chip which is available. So that's why it's getting a faster adoption, because of what we have in market by industry allows this to be implemented at a very nominal timeline, kind of. Yeah.
So we have no more questions, but I think we'll just wait for some more time. If there are any questions, we are open for that. Okay, Mayank is asking another question. How fast do you expect demand for on-device AI to grow?
I think it's a combination of multiple things. Again, as I said, see, people are democratizing a lot of algorithms into place, and it is a lot of chip want the industrial adoption to happen, right?
Mm.
Uh, so everybody, it will depend on the chip makers who are driving all this adoption, right? So uh, people who lost, for example, I'm sure mobile, there are a chip maker who made huge advances, or made a company for themselves in mobile, in handheld devices and mobile processing. There's another company who is making a fortune through AI, the general AI, right? That could be another chip guy who will be just addressing edge AI, right? So I mean, it's possible the way that it's getting democratized. We don't see very late, but again, it has to be a cost point which has to meet. So adoption scales, right? So um, near-term possibility, we see a near-term possibility of, yeah. May not be very large, but
Hmm.
yeah, it will be moderate to high kind of adoption possible.
And do you feel that we have a parallel thread is Industry 4.0, right? Do you feel that more adoption of Industry 4.0 technologies will also then correlate
Absolutely.
to adoption of
See,
Edge AI?
yes, I mean, see, that's the classic case. See, I have been talking about plant uptime.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
spoke about quality of the product, right? So those are all on the ground, and it will define the bottom line of the company, or it will define,
Hmm.
how much brand value they keep for the brand value, right? So those adoptions will be quick, and those are not expensive adoption, because these are, the equipments are available, and it's very less time this can be deployed. So industry 4.0, in not like end to end, but I think in piecemeal, very bespoke specific use cases adoptions are happening as we speak, right? And in our company itself, this is one element for the whole digitization or digital journey. We help company to do that, right? With the other services, northbound services, these are
Hmm.
services which gets packaged and provided to them. So yes, Industry 4.0, consumer electronics, healthcare are the places for early adoption for sure.
Exactly. And I think I'm getting divine sign that we are near the end of the session.
Absolutely.
So, thank you, Jagyan, for sharing such valuable insights. And I'll also like to thank all of the audience for joining in. So, before we wrap up, a quick reminder to all the audience, the recording of this webinar will be available. So, please feel free to share the link with your colleagues. And if you have any additional questions or questions that we were not able to answer today, please don't hesitate, reach to us and we will reply back. Once again, thank you, Jagyan, for your time and expertise. And
Thank,
thank you to our audience. Have a great evening.
thank you, audience, and thank you, Nascom and Kshitij, for setting this up. Pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
That brings us to the end of our truly insightful webinar, AI at the Edge, Redefining Devices and Driving Innovation, building on the discussions and partnerships formed at NASSCOM's Technology Leadership Forum. We hope this session provided you with key takeaways. A big thank you to Jagyan Mishra and Kshitij Ballal for this session. And Jagyan, thank you so much for your valuable insights and for sharing your expertise with us today. And audience, please stay tuned to NESCOM for more such engaging events and insights. Thank you so much for joining. Goodbye.